All right, we're gonna start the process. We're gonna take some 40 Smith & Wesson brass. We're gonna start separating these so that we can enter them into the app. We'll get 50 of these cases, make sure they're all the same. We're gonna go with Winchester brass, and then from there, we're gonna go ahead and clean the brass. So it's already been deprimed, but you can see I used to use corncob media. You can see all of the corn cob still in there. We're gonna clean that out. We're gonna do a wet tumble, and hopefully it'll clean out all the primer pockets and all of the insides. We'll get 50 of these rounds, enter them into the ReLOADeD app, and then we'll move on into priming, powder, bullet. I'll show you all this stuff. All right, as you can see, I started some of these. My son was able to finish the rest. We have 100 rounds here. What we're gonna do is try to go in and get rid of some of the gunk that's in here because I tumbled. You can see it, corncob media is still stuck in there. I don't know if you can see that. Right there, we gotta get that out. So what we're gonna do is take, from here, we're gonna take this out. This is a bullet seeder, but we're gonna use a generic, just a plain flat old generic deprimer. Let me see if I can find that here. We're gonna use this deprimer. It's a universal deprimer. It doesn't, all it does is deprime, and it doesn't resize, doesn't do anything like that. So we're gonna use this dye right here, universal deprimer dye. I'm gonna put that here, and what we're gonna do is take out all that corncob media before we actually go in and wet tumble the brass. So just to give you an example, we're gonna take, let's say, let me see which one has, this one has a lot of stuff in there. See that? You can see that in there. So hopefully this fits. I think it's set up for 9. All we're gonna do is go in, get rid of that stuff in there, pop that out, and you'll notice now it's nice and clean. We're gonna do this first before we move into wet tumbling all this stuff, and I'll show you the next part. And then we'll add that into our inventory in ReLOADeD app. All right, so I have my son helping me out. He's gonna do the rest of them. We're gonna do all 100. He's going through, making sure that the corncob media is removed from those pocket primers before we go ahead and clean that brass. Okay, after he does 100, we'll come back and we'll show you the next step. All right, at this point, he was able to do all the rest. I did one, I'll be honest. He did all 99 of them. Okay, so he got the primer pockets all clean. He removed all that corncob media. I don't know if I'll be using that stuff anymore because it leaves it kind of dirty. All right, so we're gonna move on to the next step. Let me show you the container we're gonna use to tumble the brass in a wet media. We'll show that right now. All right, so we're gonna use this Frankfurt Arsenal wet media tumbler. So I'm gonna take off the top. This is a strainer. This is what we're gonna use in the end to separate all of the brass, the pins and everything from the water. We'll pour that out. So right now we're gonna use this. It gives us a window. We're gonna take all of our brass, all of these that you see here, and what we're gonna do, we're gonna put 100 rounds in here. We're gonna fill it up with water. We're gonna add some dishwashing soap. What you can use, whatever. We are gonna use dishwashing soap. And then finally, I have 2.5 pounds of stainless steel pins. We're gonna place those in there. This is what really helps clean out those primer pockets, cleans out the inside of the brass. We're gonna let it run for 2 hours. Once we're done, we'll show you the results. We'll move on into entering that into, I don't have my phone with me, but the ReLOADeD app. All right, I'm gonna take all of the brass, not rounds, all of the brass. We're gonna pop all of these in here, and then I'll show you how we filled it up with all of the water, the soap, everything. We'll get that in just a bit. All right, at this point, I'm gonna go ahead and fill this up with water, cold water. We're gonna go, you know, up to about the lip right here. I'm gonna fill that up, let it fill up. Hold on, it's almost there, almost there, almost there. And okay, a little more. Okay, I think we're good there. I'm just gonna take whatever kind of dishwashing soap. I'm gonna stick a whole bunch in there. Okay, from there, what we want to do is we're going to take these stainless steel pins. We're going to dump all these in there as well. All of it, 2.5 pounds. That's the way I've been doing it. All right, we're good. From there, I'm going to close it up and I'll show you the tumbling process next. All right, so here's the tumbler. What I'm going to do is go ahead and turn it on. We're going to leave it. We're going to let that run for about 2 hours. We'll see how it looks at the end. All right, we are about 1 hour in. Let's see. Yeah, 1 hour in. This is what we have so far. Still cleaning. You can see the pins there. So we're still good. We'll come back and check in another hour. We'll show how clean it is. Okay, we've cleaned everything out. Next thing we're gonna do now is separate the brass from all the pins, but if you look, looks pretty good to me. Look at that. Nice and clean. Look at that. Nice brass. All right, we'll go to the next step. All right, so I'm gonna pull out the brass. I already took out the soap water, but man, nice and clean. And I'm just gonna put them here one at a time. I know it takes forever, but that's the way I'm gonna do it. Take out all the pins, separate the pins from the brass, and just lay them on this microfiber towel and let them dry. I'll turn the air on right now, the fan. Make sure they dry. So tomorrow we'll be able to move on to the next step. All right, now the brass has been cleaned. We left this out to dry overnight. You can see the primer pockets are nice and clean. At this point, what we need to do, because you can tell on some of these, like this one, you can see sometimes when it hits the deflector shield right there, it's dented. What we're gonna do right now is resize all this brass. Make sure it's perfectly cylindrical and we don't have any dents. You can see it there as well. There's like a dent there. So that's the next step. We're gonna resize the brass, but it came out good, nice and clean. Primer pockets are clean. We're good. We'll move on to the next step. At this point, we're gonna go ahead and remove the universal depriming die. This is a LeAD universal deprimer. Let me put this away real quick. Get that out of the way. And we're going to be using this LeAD Deluxe pistol die set. 40 caliber. Right now, what we want to do is we want to do a resizing. We're gonna use this carbide sizing die. So let's go ahead and take that out. Pop that in, which is right here. All right, we're good there. And let me show you one. We had this, where's this one right here? There was one that was kind of dented. Just looking for it. You can tell right here it's dented. All right, we're gonna go ahead and resize this brass here. So let's go, we're gonna do all these. And it's nicer, better on the die because it's nice and clean. We'll go straight, run it straight through. Let's go a couple of times. And now you'll notice, you know, there's a slight dent, but it's nice and cylindrical. If you do see any cracks, it's best to get rid of the brass. Okay, so I got one down. Let me show you another one. Here. Number 2, this one looks good, but let's go ahead and resize it. There we go. It's number 2. Looks good. All right, we'll continue. We'll do all 100. All right, once again, I got my son to, he hasn't even combed his hair. He woke up this morning and we're continuing. He's gonna do all 100. He'll put those there, the rest down here. After he's done, we're gonna go ahead and check each casing, each case, make sure that it is free of cracks, free of dents, defective free, and then we move to the next step, which will be tapering the lip so that the bullet can seat properly. Alrighty, we have gone through, resized all of our brass. We have 100 rounds here. Actually, my son did most of them. Everything is clean. One last step, usually I go through and I check all the brass, make sure there's no cracks in it, make sure everything looks good. And what we're gonna do now, we're gonna go ahead and stick this into the back into the machine here. What we want to do is kind of flare the tips out, expand it slightly up here at the top so that the bullet is able to seat firmly. It's much easier if we leave it as is. That bullet has a hard time going in and we end up kind of shaving parts of the bullet off. We don't want that, so we'll run that through next. After we do that, we'll go into priming. But in the meantime, let me go ahead and show you right here. We have the app open. We're gonna add these cases. So from there, I'm going to add a case, and this one right here is going to be a 40 Smith & Wesson. Brand we already know was Winchester. We have 100 that we just cleaned and got ready to go. A lot of information. For me, I'm calling this 2024 Orange. That's just my naming convention. You can name it whatever you like. Finishes brass. We did not purchase it, and I'm thinking of changing that to acquired date, because we don't always purchase these. These I may have purchased, but some of them also find in the range and I'm able to pick those up. So look, I'm gonna put today's date and later on I'll change that in the app. Didn't pay anything for these, and we don't have a vendor. So these have been one-time fired. They've not been reloaded yet. We have not trimmed them, but we did do one-time full size re-length. We have not trimmed them to length, and we're going to size the neck here. I kind of flared it. You can count that as the times the neck has been sized. We were not crimping and we're not turning the neck. Technically this is for, you know, rifle rounds, but I'm gonna go ahead and leave that there. I'm gonna put here, and I'll leave it. So when you go with a photo, okay, I can't do it right now because I have the camera going here, but I'll take a photo of these cases, maybe already in the case where they're ready to go, to show that I have these 100 rounds. Either way, now that I'm done here, I'm gonna go ahead and lock this, and then I'm going to save it. You'll notice down here for the 40, it doesn't show up, so you have to kind of pull this down to refresh. Now I can't do it here because it's kind of, I'm not using an iPad or anything, I'm using the computer, but it will show up here. Maybe sometimes if I go out and go back in, it'll show up. There it is. Okay, so we have our Winchester. We have not reloaded yet. 2024 Orange is my lot, 100 of them, and I've fully sized it one time. I'll add a photo here later. Now let's move to the next step. Let's go ahead and flare or open up the mouth here so we can see the bullet. I'll show you that in the next step. Alright, I said I would move on to the next step. So what we're going to do is expand that mouth, right, of each of these cases. Got to open that up so that we can go ahead and begin adding primers. So I'm going to use this one right here, the powder through expanding die. Take that out. Take this one off. This was the full length resizer. We're going to move into now expanding that. Will be this one right here. You can also use this to, if you're using a progressive system, this will also drop your powder in. I don't like using that. So here's what it does. I'm going to show you right now. You see that's perfectly cylindrical. I'm going to run this through. I'm going to pull this out real quick because I don't want to open up too much. See, that barely did it. I think I need to go a little more. A little more. There we go. Now, still need more. Still not liking it. There we go. That's a little bit better. Almost there. Okay, that looks good to me. Just a little more. See, now you'll notice it's kind of flared here. It opened it up compared to this one right here. You can just barely tell. See if the camera focuses. You can tell that this one right here flares slightly. Could go a little more. Let me try a little more here. All right, there, definitely, you can tell there. We don't want to go too much, but that kind of flared it there. So now that the bullet can seat properly. Let me grab a bullet so you can see it real quick. Give me 1 sec. Right here. Let's see here. Grab one of these just so we can see it. And you'll notice, so here's the bullet. I expanded slightly, makes it much easier for this to be seated in there. See that? Because if I don't do that, here's what happens. See how it doesn't even really seat, doesn't go in? You'll end up kind of shaving and messing up this bullet, and that's why we end up tapering or opening up that mouth slightly so that the bullet can be seated much easier. So we'll go ahead and do that to all the rest. We'll continue, and I will show you once I'm done with all of these, flaring these open, we'll begin priming these. Alrighty, next step, we're going to use CCI small pistol primers. We're going to take all of these and we're going to prime them all. Get them ready for, we're going to get them ready for the powder load. So to do that, I use this Lee primer seeder. You can pick that up, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and load these in here. Get them all ready to go, and then I'll get back to you once I start priming. Make sure they're all upright. There's just a few here. There we go. Lock. It's ready. Put it back in. All right, go ahead and start priming. Nothing yet. Go ahead and prime. One right there. I'll go through all 100 and continue to prime. Gotta be sure we don't put our face in the way, hands out of the way when we prime these. By the way, in case you're wondering, I'm actually in my home office or studio. I kind of do both programming here, reloading here, and I work on music here. I have my studio in the same place. I kind of do all the same place. This stand right here you're looking at, I created. I just bought some legs from Harbor Freight real cheap. I then went to Lowe's, bought the hardest wood they had, mounted it here, and then from there I went ahead and mounted all of these things onto the wood. Works really good. Can't complain. It's compact. Works good. Alright, so before I move on, I went ahead and did some research. I did this through the Hodjon website. You guys can get your load whatever you like, but what I'm going to show you right now is how to create a recipe using all the components, everything that we did right now. I've already entered powder and everything, so what I'm going to do is go ahead and create a new recipe. We're going to use that from inventory so that later on we can deduct directly from, from all of the inventory that we have, primers, powder, all that good stuff, cases. Title. Now this is going to be a 40 Smith & Wesson. That's what I'm going to title it. You can title it whatever you like. 40 Smith & Wesson, and this is a mid-load because I'm going to take the starting load and the max load and just cut it right in half. I'm going to do a mid-load. Okay, I'm going to put today's date, powder now. We're going to use this Hodjon CFE pistol. I think that's the right one. Let me make sure, but yeah, this is it. 2024 orange. The bullet now is I am using. Let me get this real quick. I'm going to use the ReLOADeD XTP 155 grain. So that's actually a 10 millimeter. It's this one right here, ReLOADeD 155 grain XTP, because I have a whole box which is 100 bullets, and there's my lot, 2024 orange. Case. I'm going to use the same cases that I cleaned earlier, 100 cases. Haven't reloaded it yet, but this is it, 2024 orange. Primers. Now remember, I used that CCI small pistol primers. I bought 2 batches of it. It doesn't matter which one I use, so I'm going to select this one. This is the 500 small pistol primers. I have 500 primers there. I bought them at 2 different times. Doesn't matter which one I use. Again, I'm going to go with 2024 orange as my lot. Trim length. Forgot to get that, but let me see. Let me make sure on the Hodjon website. We didn't trim it, but we're going to put that in there anyway because we need to make sure we know if we ever have to trim it in the future, because brass does stretch once you fire it. For right now, let me go in. Let me see if I can find this real quick. This is a pistol. So I'm doing this. I'm doing research here on the Hodjon website. We're going with this is a 40 caliber Smith & Wesson right there. We're going 155 grain. We're going to use Hodjon powder, CFE pistol. Let me get that load really quickly. And now, so the trim length for a 40 Smith & Wesson will be, let me write that in right here. This is going to be 0.845 inches. The overall length, the cartridge overall length, is going to be 1.125 inches. Okay, now the load that I'm using, because I'm using a mid-range load, is going to be 7 grains. 7 grains. Got it? And the pressure for that, since it's a mid-load, is going to be at 29,200 psi. The velocity there let me add that really quickly, is going to be 1,161 feet per second because I'm going the mid-range. Alright, I am done here. Later on I'll select the photo, but for right now let me go ahead and lock that and I will save it. Alright, and here we go. There it is right there. 4/13/2024. This is my recipe. That's the recipe I'm going to be using to load all of those 100 cases so that I can create 100 rounds. I'll show you that in a bit. At this point I'm going to check my powder load, make sure I have 7 grains. Right now I'm at about 5.2 grains, 5.4 grains. So I'll keep adjusting this, keep dropping powder, measuring. Once I get that right, I'll start loading all the powder into each case. Okay, at this point I think I have these 7 grains exactly. Looks good. Problem with some of these is the grains fluctuate 7.1, 7, 7.2. So I keep my finger on it here, it's helped. And try that one more time. Make sure we have 7 grains. Can adjust slightly, but I think we're good here. This will be it. So I'll go ahead and start loading these cases. Alright, we're going to go to the last part. We're going to go ahead and seat the bullet. Do have powder in here, everything ready to go. The bullet depth should be, or actually the overall length of the cartridge should be 1.125 inches. I'm going to start by pulling out a bit. Let's see where we're at. And then check measurements, 1.125 inches. So let me check real quick where we're at. Okay, see here we are at 1.259, so I gotta go way down. 1.125. More than that. Let's see here, 1.125. Still at 1.2, 1.125. Let's see here. Okay, 1.179, getting closer. Got to get to 1.125. 1.16. Almost there. Let's see. 1.125. I'm still at 1.14. 1.125. Let's see here. Okay, 1.4. I'll get there, but I'll show you once I start seating these. I gotta get to 1.125. There it is, 1.125. So I think we're good there. I'm gonna go with the next one and I'll just continue seating these. We have 100 to seat. Check that real quick, 1.125. There we go, 1.125. We're good, I'm gonna continue seating these. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is go into looking at how we can assemble these rounds so that it's deducted from all of our inventory. So this is the recipe that we used right here. There's two ways to do it. You can slide left, it's one of the two, slide left or right, and you can assemble. I'm gonna show you in here by clicking it. This is our load right here, 7 grains. This is for 40 caliber Smith & Wesson. It was our mid load. You would click on the menu here, and what we're gonna do is assemble. By assembling means we just created 100 of these rounds. So what we wanna do is deduct. By assembling, we're going to deduct 2,727.5 grains from the powder because that's how much it took. We're going to deduct the 100 bullets that we used. Our case is the Smith & Wesson. I know I'd never put a picture in, but we're going to put down that we've used those 100, so they're not in our inventory right now because this is an actual round of ammunition. All right, and then finally the CCI primers that we use 100 of these. Once you assemble, and this is the correct lot, the 100 rounds, 700 total grains of, I'm sorry, it was 700 grains of powder. This is our total remaining. So we're gonna use 700 total grains for all 100 rounds. Let's go ahead and assemble this. This is gonna be a 40 Smith & Wesson cartridge. Let's do that. Okay, successfully deducted all component amounts. Let's go into our ammunition and check. So we should be able to find a 40 Smith & Wesson here. Shouldn't have a picture because we just loaded it. There it is. 155 grain XTP 2024 orange is my lot, so I know that's the correct lot. 100 of these were created today, 4/15. If we go in, you can also go in and add. This is brass. It did that for us already. I'm gonna put home office, and later on I'm gonna see if I can add a menu where I can click this, just like similar to everything else. It has a list of all the previous locations we've used. Now what I'll do after this, I'll go ahead and take this whole thing, put it on a scale, weigh this whole thing. I don't know how much it is. I don't have the scale on me. Maybe I'll show it in another video. But you can see in the notes, this is assembled using recipe components. I don't have a picture yet. I'll add one. So for right now, I'm good. I'm going to go ahead and lock and save this here. And that's it. We've gone through the whole view of creating the cleaning the brass, loading the brass. Next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take these Avery labels, and what I'm gonna do is I'm going to create a label. You can find one of my other videos here that shows how to do it, and I'm gonna place that label right here so it's easy view of my recipe, load, brass, primer, everything in there. So in a nutshell, that's how you use ReLOADeD from your inventory. I'll keep adding more videos later on. I'll be showing how to use your firearm once you go out to the range and you use a 40, let's say a 40, how to keep track of how many rounds you've fired, and maintenance rounds is in there, all that good stuff, but I'll show that later.